Okay, welcome back to the shop, everybody. Today is just a little sneak peek on something new that's coming out very, very soon, hopefully in the next few days. There's just a little bit more work I have to do. And this is a new concept for larger foil boards, or really wing boards is what we're going for here. A lot of people have been asking, and so it's taken a while, but I've come up with something that I think is pretty cool and different. So essentially in here, in this box, is a wing board. This is the 4'6" length board. I can't remember the volume off the top of my head, but it has a volume similar to most other, if not a little bit more volume. And so this is obviously, immediately you might start thinking it's such a big board and we have a small box. So this is really the whole point, or the concept that I'm trying out here. So I've built a few stand-up paddle boards with the foam that I have on deck, and so I don't have huge foam blanks for paddle boards, so I kind of glue the pieces together like a puzzle piece after they're cut out on the CNC machine, and then you end up with, once you glue them together, you end up with a nice blank. And there's a little bit of technique there involved, but it's very simple and straightforward to follow. And so I went ahead with that with the wing boards, because otherwise shipping these would be a bit of a problem, and not really a problem, but it's a much larger box. The packing fees would be a lot more expensive, and then also the shipping would be a lot more expensive. So this is the concept here, and you can see we start to get our pieces. So this is the very front of the board here, and I'm just going to lay them out as is. And here's our back end section, track section, and then out is the centerpiece. So it's pretty easy to see the concept here. So it basically fits together like a giant Lego. You can see there's some, these are actually, it's some glue here. So this board comes out of the machine in 3 separate pieces, and then it's temporarily glued together, which is what you see here. And then once it's glued together as one board, as like one solid board, it's brought to its final shape. So like a board that comes out of the machine, we got to just do a little bit of quick sanding to it just to smooth everything out and really perfect the edges and whatnot. And then once that's done, it's pretty much at the seams, it's quickly snapped, and then it breaks apart cleanly along that line, and then it gives you these kind of like indents and features, little, just like a Lego. And so you can see here we have the opposing side, and they fit and they kind of work as nice little guides to get the piece right where you want it. So you fit the board together, and before you get into fiberglassing the whole board, you glue it together. A little bit of a technique there, but it's pretty straightforward. And then the seam is filled, and then after that you have one smooth solid blank, and then it's just onto the fiberglassing work, just like the other boards. So it's not much different. It's a bit bigger, but it's pretty much the same build process. So the only thing that's different is gluing it together, and I've worked that out, come up with a pretty good way to do that. So right now we can see that these seams, they're a bit wider than they actually are. Once you get this board glued up and positioned properly, it's just laying out on the table, they kind of tend to be a bit wider than they should. But yeah, it's kind of just your basic wing board. Did a little research and saw what some people liked and what some people didn't like, and so I made sure that we're gonna have all the sizes. So again, this is a 4'6". There'll be the rest of the work that I have to do before putting these up on the website is I have to get the 5-foot model done, and then the 5'6", and then the 6-foot. So those are hopefully the size ranges that get done. So cover all the sizes. We have the volume, we have the width there as well, and as you can see, a little bit of a double concave up front, and then I'm not sure exactly what this side bevel is called, but kind of helps if you're, have the board at quite an angle going into the wind and you briefly touch down, that kind of helps to just deflect off the water. And then lastly, it took a few redesigns on the very tail end section here, because I noticed a lot of people did not like really like rounded back edges, or when you have an angle coming into it, a pretty steep angle, because especially when you're wing foiling or just foiling in general, maybe trying to get off of a wave, that water is going to hug that back surface and create a lot of drag. So really having the sharpest angle in the rear for a very clean release of the water is the most efficient way to do it. So I kind of blended that, so you have a bit of a cut back here, and that makes it easier to angle the nose of the board up to pop up on the foil. But because we have this little step involved, we're able to shorten that distance, and then you can, with this angle here, this edge, it's relatively sharp as is. This is about as tight as you would want to get if you're glassing. But if you want to really sharpen up this back edge, you can do that. You can pretty much just take a piece of tape, build a dam, and then pour in epoxy. So you kind of have a solid epoxy area that cures up, and then you're able to sand down that solid epoxy into a sharp edge. So if you're really looking for efficiency, that's the best way to do it. I'm sure at some point, hopefully, we'll get into that, and there'll be a little bit of a video on how that's done. So that's pretty much it as far as the features go. On the deck, it's just a little bit of a concave, and you can, in the build video, which I've already filmed, I use an example as to how to put a insert into the board. So if you're the type of person who wants to put some straps, maybe some front foot straps on your board, I show how that's done. I only put in one insert because I personally don't prefer not to use them, but the process remains the same. So you can put in inserts wherever you please on this board, and if you want to put in a board leash and whatnot, process is pretty much the same, so that can be done as well. So that's pretty much it. Left a lot of volume on the sides of the board going all the way up to the very front. You can see this is pretty chunky up here, and that's to, I guess, aid in just to give you a bit more stability as far as side to side goes, because I know when you're doing the wing thing at very low speeds, that transition of kind of popping up, getting enough speed to be able to stand up and have the balance to do so. I figured every kind of bit of buoyancy that we can get towards the edges will help that process, kind of like if we're thinking like a catamaran somewhat. So really made sure to carry a lot of volume up going through the front towards the sides of the board. Well, while we're at it, and I'm making a video about it, so this is the board that was built in the build video and came out great. So you can see it's still that 4/6 length, and I gave this a coat of white paint just to protect it from UV sunlight and just to give it a cleaner look, and also to hide up the seams and the track mounts in the back. So flipping it over here, you can't really see that concave, but there's a slight concave there. And towards the back here is, I put the insert in because it was just an example, showing you how to do it. I put it in towards the back here. This is typically where I guess you'd put a leash plug, but yeah, I put the insert in here just to keep it out of the way, so that this board, so if I put it kind of in the middle where you would normally put inserts, it'd be a little weird just to put one there. So put it in the back, and you can see very easy and clean to do. So you can get all your inserts in here, and it's pretty nice and turns out very well. Like, it's a very nice durable board. So while it's out, I actually haven't taken a weight of this board yet, so I figure hopefully this little scale can do it. might have maxed it out. So I think this maxes out at 5 kilograms, and so this is coming in at what looks like 4,600 grams, so 4.6 kilograms. So just did the math, that comes out to just a smidge over 10 pounds. So not bad considering the size. And I did glass this up pretty heavy because I like to have things be durable. So it's glassed up a bit more than I think it needs to be, but that's still, I think, within reason. So those should be out soon. The build video, as I said, is already done, and that'll probably be the next video that I upload here. And that video ended up being very long. I think it's about an hour and a half, something like that. I went pretty in depth with every single step. So there's a lot there to look at and digest, and that covers absolutely everything that we pretty much just talked about. So pretty excited about these. Hopefully it makes sense. I just thought it was a little bit different, and so why not give it a shot. So great, easy, simple way to build large boards, and just being able to send those to people a lot easier than conventional ways. I know, you know, if you try to get a large 6-foot blank, you can't really UPS that. It's got to come on a truck, and oftentimes the shipping ends up being a lot more than the cost of the blank itself. So trying this out, see if we can get around that problem, and I think so far I think it's turned out pretty well.